Hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Letterbox Podcast. Today's letter comes from someone who has chosen to remain anonymous, but whose words I know will stay with you long after this episode ends. When she emailed me, she said she'd been trying to find a way to express what's in this letter for almost 2 years. Then, when she came across the podcast, she immediately knew this was how she wanted to tell her story. She describes this letter as a story of herself, her husband, and the stranger that came to live with them after his accident. One of the things that struck me most was why she wanted to share it. She told me that once people with brain injuries return home from hospital, the medical support often fades, but that the reality of living with the injury does not. And through this letter, she is hoping that another family might come to realize something that she has learnt herself, that the stranger is not the person in front of them, but the injury that happened to them. The words in this letter are incredibly emotional, but there was something that she wrote in the email that really made me pause. She said that writing this letter had helped her process something she's been holding on to for years. Her husband read the letter before she emailed it in because she wanted him to know that she was doing it and be okay with it. He told her it was the best letter he'd ever read. Unsurprisingly, that made them both very emotional. And I've got to say, hearing that made me emotional too. This really is the power of putting feelings into words. Sometimes writing them down can help us make sense of them, and sometimes sharing them helps others feel less alone. And it really is why the podcast exists, to give people a place to tell the stories they've been carrying. Before I read you today's letter, if you've not already, please press the follow button wherever you are listening. It only takes a moment. If you are also able to leave a review and share it with someone else you think might like to hear this, it does so much to support the podcast. These actions are really simple, but these letters deserve to be heard. And now, today's letter. Dear brain injury, you came without warning late on a Friday night at the end of what should have been a wonderful day, but that will forever be remembered as that day. The words severe, unconscious, and permanent damage floated around the hospital ward as you took hold of my husband. He was placed into a medically induced coma to allow his brain to heal, and we visited every day, talking to him and talking to the nurses who were caring so wonderfully for him. Watching everything that happened to him and wondering what life would be like on the other side. When he was woken up 3 weeks later, you made your presence known. It wasn't like the films. There was no gradual waking up and then, I feel like I've been dreaming. We could see it in his eyes. You had temporarily taken the movement of his right side and had temporarily taken his speech. He knew us, but he didn't know us. He couldn't remember our names or where we lived. He had no memory of what had happened that night, and for that, I'm glad. When he came home 6 weeks after the accident, you obviously came too. A stranger in our house that will never leave. We talk about you nearly every day. Some people think that's strange, but how can we not when you took so much from him and changed his life so drastically? We both know it could have been a very different story and that we are some of the lucky ones, but we can still be angry with you. You took his balance, his hearing, his understanding of words, his sense of taste and smell. You took his job, his career, and with it, a lot of his self-confidence. On your worst days, when the strain and fatigue are visible on his face, you make him feel less than he was. And I hate you for that, because to me, he is not less. He is so much more. He refuses to let you beat him. He will keep trying to defy you, and he is still here despite you. Living, breathing, and enjoying this new version of life as best he can, despite everything that you have taken. Sometimes you make us laugh when the word comes out wrong if he's tired. Sometimes you make us cry when we remember what you took and how fragile life is. The tightrope that we walk between the world being upright and then suddenly everything being upside down is so thin. Neither of us fully appreciated that before you came, but we do now. We have more photographs of us together after you than before you. We spend more time together. We laugh more together. We make time to make new memories, and we write them down for our happy jar. If you've taught me anything, it's to live life as fully as you can in the present. Tomorrow is not promised, and yes, we need to make plans, but if they can all be turned on their head in the blink of an eye, now is more important. You were not welcome when you first came home, but we are learning to live with you. You are here to stay, and he will keep on defying you, because although you may win some of the battles, you will certainly not win the war. He is not and will not be defined by you. So keep watching us as we go about our lives. They may be different, but they are ours, not yours. From the wife of a warrior. Thank you so much to today's writer for trusting me with something so personal, so lived in, and so deeply felt. There is something very powerful in what was just shared. Not just the story itself, but the courage that it took this lady to put it into words, and for her and her husband to let them be read by someone else. So I'm grateful for the openness, for the trust, and for the reminder that even in the most complicated parts of life, people are still trying to reach each other, still trying to understand, and still trying to love well, even when things have changed. So again, thank you to the writer of our letter today. You and your husband's story, strength, and love will stay with me, and I'm sure will for anyone else listening. Thank you again for listening to the Letterbox Podcast. Please do make sure that you are following and tell somebody else about these letters. Let's honor the people who are taking the time to write them by telling other people they really do deserve to be heard. Until next time, look after yourself and your loved ones.